I'm going to say it again. Kevin Stefanski must be fired. I'm going to say it again and again and again. Kevin Stefanski did not want Shedeur Sanders, didn't even want him in the 5th round. Kevin Stefanski has done everything in his power to keep Shedeur Sanders from succeeding in Cleveland as a 5th round pick against all odds. Even yanking Shedeur again for the potential tying 2-point conversion, going with the Wildcat. It was a disaster after Shedeur had shown again and again he's the answer in the red zone for the Cleveland Browns.
Get ready for one of the most shocking, crazy, and explosive things happening in the NFL right now. And believe me when I say that this story has it all. We're talking about betrayal, bad coaching choices, a rookie quarterback playing like a pro, and a defensive superstar who just made history and told his head coach in the most professional but devastating way possible that he messed up. This is the kind of drama that makes the NFL must-see TV and has fans, analysts, and insiders all asking the same thing. What's going on in Cleveland? The Cleveland Browns just lost one of the most humiliating, heartbreaking, and completely devastating games of the season. They lost to the Tennessee Titans, who had only one win at home by a score of 31-29. Give that a minute to sink in. The Browns were 12-point favorites playing in their own stadium against a Titans team that had been losing week after week and was 1-11, looking like they were ready to give up on the season. This should have been an easy win, a game to get back on track, the kind of game where you work out the kinks, build your confidence, and maybe give your young quarterback some easy touches to help him improve. Instead, it turned into a complete coaching disaster that has now caused a gap so big that a scimitar could fit through it. But this is where the story goes from a disappointing loss to a full-blown organizational crisis. Myles Garrett is the most important player on this team. He is a defensive end who just became the 8th player in NFL history to get 100 career sacks in just 113 games. A player who is very much a Cleveland Brown and Orange fan. A leader who usually keeps that sacred bond between players and coaches strong, no matter what happens on the field. Just got up to the mic and said something shocking that has everyone from ESPN to sports radio to your neighborhood barbershop talking. He didn't just talk about the loss. He didn't just say what most coaches say, which is that we need to do better. No, Myles Garrett looked right into those cameras and told the world that his head coach, Kevin Stefanski, made the wrong choice. And he did it in such a planned, careful, and very direct way that you know it wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment reaction. This was done on purpose. There was a message here. Before we talk about what Garrett said and why it's making waves in the whole league, we need to talk about what really happened in this game.
Shedeur Sanders just played by far his best game as a pro. He just threw for 364 yards and 3 touchdowns and led the Browns in rushing and scored a rushing touchdown from 7 yards. Clutch, clutch, clutch. Just led an 80-yard drive in 7 plays to put them within striking distance, 31-29.
The situation makes everything so much worse, so much more annoying, and so much more like the coaching staff might be in over their heads. Shedeur Sanders was the Browns' rookie quarterback who made a name for himself. You know the name. You know the family history. Deion Sanders is the son of Coach Prime, and he has to deal with all the pressure and expectations that come with that. Shedeur knew he had to prove himself in this game. He knew that people were doubting him and that every throw, decision, and moment would be watched closely. And you know what? The kid really went off. We're talking about 364 yards of passing. Please read that again. A rookie quarterback threw the ball 364 yards through the air. 3 touchdown passes, one of which was a perfect dime. A perfectly placed fade route to a receiver named Fannin that showed the kind of touch, anticipation, and field vision that you don't see from players in their first season. The placement of the ball was precise. The timing was perfect. The level of confidence was through the roof. Shedeur also ran for a 7-yard touchdown, showing off his ability to move that many people didn't know he had. This showed that he's not just a pocket passer, but a dual threat who can extend plays and make defenses pay when they think they've got him contained. The kid brought his team back from a 14-point deficit against an opponent that was controlling the clock, holding the ball for a long time, and almost perfectly following their game plan. Yes, there was an interception. Yes, Shedeur tried to do too much on one play, held the ball for too long, and tried to make something happen that wasn't there. But this is what makes good young quarterbacks stand out from future stars. How do they deal with problems? How do they get back on track after making a mistake? And Shedeur Sanders answered that question with a loud yes by leading 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter, one of which was an incredible 80-yard march down the field in just 7 plays that had the whole stadium on its feet. Made Browns fans think they were about to see a comeback for the ages. Had the momentum completely on Cleveland's side. This was a great performance. This was a cold-blooded execution. This was a first-year quarterback acting like a 10-year veteran in the most important parts of the game. And then Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, made a choice that people will talk about, criticize, and pick apart for weeks, maybe even months.
Shedeur just completely outplayed Cam Ward. I'm going to say it again. I said it before the draft. The Tennessee Titans should have taken Shedeur Sanders #1 overall.
The Browns needed a 2-point conversion to tie the game after Shedeur led that amazing touchdown drive that brought them within striking distance. The new quarterback was on fire. He was in sync. He had just made a lot of big throws under pressure. He was very sure of himself. His teammates had faith in him. The crowd was going crazy. This was the time to ride with your guy. Trust the player who got you there, and give the ball to your best offensive weapon so he could make a play. Instead, Stefanski took Shedeur Sanders off the field. He put his quarterback on the bench, even though he had been great all game long, and then decided to run a wildcat formation, which was a gimmick play that went horribly wrong, gained almost nothing, and basically ended the Browns' chances of tying the game and forcing overtime. But hold on, it gets worse. Stefanski had done this before. The Browns scored their first touchdown in the fourth quarter to make the score 31-23. They also went for 2. Shedeur dropped the snap on that try, which is okay, but not great. Snap fumbles happen, especially when your starting center gets hurt earlier in the game and the backup is trying to perform in a loud, high-pressure setting. It's a game of football. Things don't always go as planned. You learn from it and go on. Stefanski, on the other hand, didn't just chalk it up to bad luck and trust Shedeur on the next important conversion attempt. Instead, he made the decision right then and there that he wasn't going to let his quarterback handle the next 2-point try either. And here's the best part. Stefanski quickly said no when reporters asked him after the game if the fumbled snap was why he didn't use Shedeur on the second 2-point attempt. If the fumble wasn't the cause, what was? That's when things got really exciting. Stefanski said that he had already made up his mind during the week before the game that if they needed 2-point conversions, he would go wildcat. This shocked everyone in the football world. Let me say that again to make it clear. Kevin Stefanski had already decided not to give the ball to his quarterback for 2-point conversions before he saw how Shedeur would play, how the game would go, what momentum would look like, or which players would be hot. That's not changing with the game. That's not coaching in real time. That's sticking to a script no matter what reality is showing you. That's the kind of rigid, unyielding thinking that makes teams lose games they should win. And boy, did it cost them this one. Now let's look at what Myles Garrett said. This is where everything comes together, and the anger that was building up in that locker room comes out in the strongest way. When reporters asked Garrett about Shedeur's performance and his ability to lead the team back, giving them a chance to tie the game if they'd converted one of those 2-point attempts, Garrett's answer was full of hidden meaning. He said, I think he did well. I thought he looked good. He did a great job when we needed him to. You can already tell what Garrett is really saying. He is saying good things about Shedeur. He is stressing that the rookie came through when it counted. And by doing that, he's asking the question that everyone watching was yelling at their TVs. If Shedeur was doing so well, looking so good, and coming through when they needed him, then why wasn't he on the field for those 2-point attempts that were so important? But Garrett wasn't finished. He went on to say, everyone will have some good and bad times, especially a rookie. But when he got there, he looked calm. He got out of some sacks, broke the pocket, and made some big plays. I just want him to keep getting better and for the clock to move a little faster. But he seems to be getting more and more comfortable each week. This isn't just empty praise. This is a veteran superstar who has been in this league long enough to know when someone is good and goes out of his way to point out certain things. Staying calm under pressure, being able to extend plays, making big throws, and getting more comfortable every week. Garrett is painting a picture of a quarterback who not only played well, but also has the qualities and path to become a star in the future. And by doing that, in response to questions about those failed two-point conversions, he's making a very clear point without directly blaming his coach. Myles Garrett is too smart, too professional, and too much of a leader to say, "Coach Stefanski messed up and cost us the game," into a microphone. That's not how veterans of his level act. But don't get me wrong, that's exactly what he's saying. In a way that keeps plausible deniability while making the point clear to anyone who is paying attention. When the face of your franchise, the defensive captain, uses his media time to keep talking about how well the rookie quarterback is playing and how he should keep being trusted, that's a pretty clear criticism of the choice to take that quarterback out at the most important times. There is no better or more obvious difference between Garrett's press conference and Stefanski's. Garrett was honest, open, and clear about what went wrong and what needs to change. Stefanski, on the other hand, was defensive, evasive, and used corporate buzzwords that didn't mean anything. When reporters asked him to explain his reasoning and walk them through his thought process on the two-point decisions, Stefanski kept saying the same things over and over. "It's my fault. It's all my fault. I make all the calls." That's great that you're willing to say those things, Kevin, but saying you're responsible without really explaining why you made the choices you did or admitting that they might have been wrong isn't real accountability. That's deflection in the guise of leadership. One reporter asked if the calls for plays were his or Tommy Rees's, the offensive coordinators. Stefanski got very angry and said, "I make every call. I am in charge of everything." He said this a lot during the press conference, as if he were trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. But here's why that won't work. Taking ownership only means something if you really think about it and are willing to learn from your mistakes. Saying "it's on me" over and over again while refusing to answer real questions about how the decision was made is not being accountable. It is stonewalling. This kind of response makes players angry. Fans feel left out, and people wonder if the person in charge really knows what went wrong. And the reporters weren't going to let him off the hook. They kept digging, kept asking the right questions, and kept pushing for real answers. When one reporter asked when into the drive Stefanski knew he was going Wildcat for the second point attempt, the coach stated he'd already decided during the week that's what they do in that situation. Take a moment to think about how silly that is. You're watching your rookie quarterback have one of the best games of his young career. He's throwing the ball all over the field. He's getting away from the pressure. He's in charge of scoring drives. He's got the hot hand. You choose to ignore all of that real-time information because you had already made up your mind days before what play you were going to run. That's not how to coach. That's sticking to a meal plan. It doesn't make sense when you're standing in front of a buffet. That locker room must be really angry right now. These are professional athletes who risk their lives every week, work very hard in practice, watch film, and do everything they're supposed to do. But they're losing games because of coaching decisions that don't make sense. Myles Garrett talked about how bad the defense was when they let the Titans run for 184 yards, even though they had only won one game all season. He said, "The goal is always to win. Do your best to get ready. Practice as much as you can, and then hope that you can do what you practiced all week." And we didn't do that. When asked what went wrong with the run defense, Garrett was brutally honest and said, "I agree with him. That's not who we are. I can't say for sure what it was right now, if it was one thing in particular, but it wasn't us." That's a leader who takes responsibility. That's a star player saying his team didn't do their job without making excuses. But you can still hear the confusion and anger in that admission. The Browns are made to stop the run. That defensive line has some good players. All season long, they've shown that they can dominate at the point of attack when they're focused. It seems like something was wrong with their preparation, focus, game planning, or execution, since they gave up so many rushing yards to a team that had only won one game. You get a loss that never should have happened when you mix up bad defense with bad offensive coaching choices. The Titans' plan for the game was pretty simple and smart. Run the ball to keep the clock running and keep it out of Shedeur Sanders' hands. Myles Garrett is one of the most disruptive defensive players in the league. Use chips and quick passes to keep him from getting in your way. Don't give the Browns easy chances to score, and don't turn the ball over. They did 2 of the 3 parts of that plan perfectly. The running game worked. They did a good job of keeping Garrett from ruining the game. But they couldn't stop Shedeur. The first-year quarterback was too good, too calm, and too accurate. Even though Tennessee threw everything at him, he picked them apart in the air. When Garrett talked about how the Titans came at him, he said they were running the ball, which he agreed with. You can't get a sack on a run play. They chipped, rolled the pocket, and did all the other things they usually do. He was getting it out of one read and putting it in the air. They would keep running the ball on the next drive if they couldn't get it in one read. They just kept their heads down and kept working hard. That defender has been around for a while and knows how to follow a game plan. He also respects when an opponent plays well. But pay attention to what Garrett is saying. Execution means doing what you need to do, sticking with what works, and grinding it out. You can't miss the subtext. Why is our coach giving up on what's working for our offense if those qualities are important for the other team, and that's what makes them win? These mistakes by the special teams only made things worse. A blocked punt that put Tennessee in a great position on the field. The kickoff coverage was so bad that the other team got to the 45 line to start the game. These are basic mistakes that can't happen at the professional level, especially when you're playing at home against a team with only one win and are heavy favorites. When asked about Bubba Ventrone, the special teams coordinator, Stefanski didn't want to talk about it directly. Instead, he used the tired old phrase, "We have to play better, we have to coach better." Fans are sick of hearing this. Yeah, Kevin, you do have to coach better, and at some point we need to improve, has to change to, "We're making changes," or the words lose their meaning. The injury news coming out of this game is even worse. Ethan Posich, the starting center, probably suffered an Achilles injury, which would be a major blow to the offensive line and could sideline him for an additional period, possibly even into next season, depending on the severity. Several players have concussions, which means they are going into the NFL's concussion protocol. It's not clear when they will be able to play again. There are more and more injuries. The season is almost over, which makes it even more important for the coaching staff to get the most out of the healthy players on the field. Shedeur Sanders is the best player on the Browns right now. He is the most talented, has the most impact, and changes the game the most. And they're wasting his genius by making dumb choices. We should take a moment to really appreciate what Shedeur did in this game because it deserves to be praised and recognized. 364 yards, 3 touchdown passes, and 1 rushing touchdown. Leadership in getting the team back from 14 points down. The fade route touchdown to Fannin showed that he could throw and catch like an NFL player. He showed he's more than just a pocket passer with the rushing touchdown. He showed maturity and calmness beyond his years by directing that 80-yard touchdown drive in the fourth quarter, making several clutch throws under pressure. Yes, the pick was bad. He'll be the first to say he wants that play back. But great quarterbacks don't always get it right. It's how they act when they do. Shedeur's answer was to step up, put the team on his back, and make play after play when it mattered most. Even Stefanski, who made the strange choice to pull Shedeur at those important times, had to admit that the kid did well. He said, "Of course, there will be ups and downs with any young player. I thought there were some really good moments, especially late in drives, when he made some really good throws. I thought he did a great job there. Some of the moves he made with his pocket were great. Great movement in the pocket. Really good throws at the end of drives." Really good times. Okay, Kevin, if his pocket movement was great, he had great late-in drives, and he made great throws under pressure, then why wasn't he on the field for those 2-point conversions? This is the question that everyone wants to know. Myles Garrett is asking for this without saying it directly. This is what every Browns fan is saying. This is what journalists are arguing about, and it's the question that Kevin Stefanski won't answer honestly. From a purely analytical point of view, the choice to go for 2 after the first touchdown, making it 31-23, is at least defensible. Stefanski said that teams in the league do this when you're down 14. This is how the math works. If you convert, you're down 6. This means that another touchdown and an extra point will tie the game. If you don't convert, you're down 8, which means you need another touchdown and a 2-point conversion. If you score again, you should know what to do if you go for 2 on the first touchdown. The logic makes sense on paper, but that logic doesn't work at all if your execution is bad and your play calls don't make sense in the situation. The botched snap on the first 2-point attempt was bad luck, but it didn't mean they couldn't win. You can drop snaps. It happens. Your starting center is hurt and can't play. The backup is trying to do his job in a loud stadium with the game on the line. These things happen in football. You shake off the dust and go on to the next chance. But instead of learning from that mistake and making sure that the next attempt had your best players in their best positions, Stefanski became even more stubborn when they scored again to make it 31-29 when they had another chance to tie the game. The coach pulled Shedeur and went wildcat when the momentum was completely on their side, and Shedeur had just been amazing. Austin Judkins got the ball. Either he forgot he was supposed to pitch it for a pass, or the defense sniffed it out and the conversion failed. It's over. The season is basically over. And Shedeur Sanders is watching from the sidelines as his coach's choices hurt him and his team.